Yes, 7:30. Hello. Hello.
Hey,
Hello CWF Universe. It is 7:30 and just as we promised last time, we are back with another episode of CWF Backstage Pass, episode 1. Uh
yay!
1,
All
yes.
right.
Episode 1. Last time was the pilot. Would you say the pilot, the teaser? What would you
Uh,
say?
the test run.
The
That was the
test
test
run.
run. You gotta test every stunt before you
Yes.
actually pull it off.
Yes, this is last time was the test run. Today is our first ever official podcast, and as stated before, actually not stated before, but
Mm.
our current schedule is the first and third Monday every month.
Yeah,
And
the first and last doesn't
yeah,
really.
the first. Originally we said the first and last, and then Wes, in his infinite wisdom, went, we shouldn't do that because then we'll have back-to-back weeks." And I went, "Yes, you had a good idea. I had a bad idea. Then we
You
did
gotta
the
let the
good idea."
news build up, man. Gotta let it fall down over you.
Yeah, I mean, only so much happens in a week. So let's go ahead and get the announcements out of the way.
All right.
Um, Upcoming shows is Hentai Con. Yes, Hentai Con is still going on. CWF Money Shot will be happening on November 3rd in Burbank from 5 to 6:30 p.m.
Have
If
you ever
you
been in that hotel?
Yes, I have been. We have been to that
We
hotel.
sure have been
We
for a
sure
long
have
time
been.
too.
For
Uh,
those of you listening, Wes, why don't you tell them what the significance of this particular hotel is?
oh, I believe we met there, right?
Uh,
No,
we,
I mean that was the location of Anime Los Angeles, 2008. I want to say, um, but I could have sworn we didn't we meet there.
no, we met at Fanime at the elevator.
Well, shit.
I don't know the year, and taken out of context, I met you at the elevator. Sounds a bit.
Oh God, yeah, that's right. Because I complimented your cosplay.
No, it was I complimented your cosplay because you were Dion Way.
Oh man. Oh, let's keep this boat rolling.
All right, let's keep this. So, um, HentaiCon is a brand new convention, and they have been very generous in inviting the Cosplay Wrestling Federation over. So we will have our first ever 18 plus con show happening November 3rd, 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. It's looking to be a full show, surprisingly. And
Mhm.
if you are in the area, you should definitely come by and watch, especially since we're not sure if we're streaming it.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the only times that we haven't been able to stream too.
Maybe. I mean, we're definitely going to check with anybody if they're going to be running racy stuff, and
Mm,
if they are, we're just going to not run it.
right. It's a tricky issue,
It's a tricky issue.
especially, especially since we have to look at Twitch's terms and conditions with everything.
Now, other announcements is we have already finalized our new CWF online shirt, which will be coming live on our Amazon merch page. The design was made by our very own Wes, and
Hey,
we've already showed it amongst our staff, and it's very popular. We haven't released the final link yet, just because we have sent the shirt to a friend of mine who models shirts on Instagram and is a huge pro wrestling fan. He actually got it this Saturday, so expect that.
can't wait to see it. I saw the model that we're using, and it looks great, or it's going to look great.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine named Justin. He actually modeled a number of T-shirts from Joel to Sleeps. For all you Bay Area
Oh,
wrestling fans, Joel to Sleeps. He did the Fin Free shirts and the Bullet Ape shirts. Really good quality stuff. And our friend is a fan of his stuff, and he'll be wearing our stuff. And I'm looking forward to it.
it's good to mix that up.
So, as stated before, I've been saying that phrase a lot. We have our first guest of the podcast with us. So, let's do some introductions. My name is Gerardo Paz. I'm one of the co-founders of Cosplay Wrestling Federation and the lead producer, also the host of this podcast. And with me is my one and only friend, Wes.
Your one and only friend.
My one and only
Yikes.
friend, because you're
My
the
name-
true friend, Wes. Everybody else is friend, but you are true friend.
Don't say that. My name is Wes Bartel. I'm a commissioner for the Cosplay Wrestling Federation. And I guess now I'm on a podcast, which is the millennial version of Let's Open a Bar. Start a podcast.
And joining with us, our first guest of CWF Backstage Pass is...
Hi, my name is Daniel Lauby, and I've played several characters in CWF, and I'm thrilled to be here on the first ever episode of CWF Backstage Pass.
Why don't you tell the viewers at home who you have played before?
So, I have played a total of 4 people in CWF. The first one I was Yami Yugi. Had a lot of fun with him during his run. Followed that up with Jotaro Kujo, who's like just the angstiest, most muscular 17-year-old you'll ever see. Then I went completely in the opposite direction, went with the mighty Skeletor. And then finally, at Anime California, was I decided to help host that, and I was the announcer from Dragon Ball Z, who, to this day, has never been given an official name. So I just go by the announcer. Just went down.
No, I resetted it.
Oh, all right.
I resetted it. Hello there. I resetted the stream just because, well, actually, this is a great segue. Daniel is not our only guest of CWF Backstage Pass, and that is because we have here our fourth person, the referee in the ring, the invisible but ever-present CWF Backstage Pass chat. I will probably find a better name for it later. We are going at 10 listeners strong, and there's several people here. Oh, number 1 is Rachel Pikachu Libre with us on our first episode. Glad to see you here. Hello, we're not ignoring you. And we also have, I gotta lean in because this hot pink text color ain't
Mr. Maltos.
is Barbicide?
Barbarish.
Barbarish.
Oh, hi, Babarish.
Barbarish is a joy to count which is featuring Sailor Moon and Tommy Wiseau, winner of our Krakencon show.
And not just Sailor Moon. I believe that the finals of the Krakencon was them.
Yeah, it was Chun-Li. But it's great seeing you here for as always.
Savage.
CW Backstage Pass has an active chat window that we are more than happy to engage. So for any of you 10 listeners out there wants to be a part of this discussion, and we're going to be talking about some heavy stuff today and some fun things, feel free, sign on to our Twitch page, get in the chat, and be a part of this conversation.
Like that a lot.
Yeah. It's a lot more fun to ping pong ideas off of a lot of people. Also, Daniel, if you just letting you know for etiquette, if there's any chat or questions there you want to bring up or highlight, just feel free to read it out loud. We won't.
Oh,
mind.
absolutely, will do.
We won't mind. So, first order of business is I like to do some catching up. So, this. How your day's been? Well, not your day. How's life? You pretty much, any hobbies or things you're sharing or things you're being a part of that you want to plug or just, Yeah, we do this a lot in the Geek Show. It's called checking in. Pretty much, it says, okay, what's the
checking in.
Yeah, like what's the nerdiest thing you did this week or whatever.
Nerdiest thing I did. Well, it was really a week and a half ago. There's 2 gaming franchises which I'm like super big into: Dark Souls and Kingdom Hearts. Like I love the action RPG sort of genre. And a week and a half ago I decided, you know what? Kingdom Hearts 3 is coming out. I just want to replay the games. I don't care what difficulty. I just want to replay the games. So in the span of 6 days, and a couple of those were just off days. I just marathoned the entire series. I beat 8 games, 6 of which were on PS4, 2 of which were on the DS, and I'm just like, wow, I am ready for this Kingdom Hearts 3, and I am actually very, very glad that ALA is earlier this year, because if it was the same as the last few years, the release of Kingdom Hearts 3 would have fallen on Anime LA, and I would have been like,
no.
"Argh!" But thankfully, it didn't. It all worked out this year.
I wonder if that would actually hurt a convention's numbers to say put their conventions on the same day as a release as big as Kingdom Hearts 3.
Well, specify a Japanese big release, because like I don't think Anime Los Angeles numbers would be hurt by, say, Call of Duty or Madden.
Whatever the big release is, I'm saying on the level of Kingdom Hearts 3, where the fandom is just ravenous and they're just so ready to get Kingdom Hearts 3. I wonder if there's actually a chance that I could really hurt a convention's numbers.
It is possible. And to piggyback off somebody, I think it's Mission Start saying, do I really understand KH lore? I have submitted a panel, I'm going to plug this, that it might not even be accepted, to both Sac Anime and ALA, called Kingdom Hearts, a hilarious retrospective, in which case I will try to explain the Kingdom Hearts timeline in the span of less than an hour and try to make it make just a little bit of sense, because the game will come out in 3 weeks from Sac Anime and 2 from ALA, and the first game is great. Then it gets, then Mary's like the Game Boy Advance one, no one really ever played. Then Kingdom Hearts 2 is like, oh yeah, that was good, but story's starting to get a little weird. Then just kept getting more weird, and then it got so ridiculous. There's now a mobile game where, oh, remember that part where Riku stabbed Maleficent? Apparently she learned the time travel from that part, got zapped hundreds of years to the Keyblade War into a world of Data where she wanted to take over, but she met this one dark guy who said, hey, I can help you, but he lied, so he sent him back, and that's how Maleficent's now in Kingdom Hearts 2.
See,
I'm not making this up, but Nomura is.
Nomura's crazy.
It is the craziest plot line ever. That and I'm comparing this to, like, Metal Gear.
Oh man.
Oh God. And Rachel brought up a really good comment. I was thinking the same thing. Is that, your idea is great, Daniel, but I think you need to do Drunk History Kingdom Hearts.
Drunk History Kingdom Hearts. What I preferred pronunciation of? I actually say it all 3 ways. I say Keyblade, Kaiblade, and X-Blade. And God, he even says that. It's in the game, it's the letter X blade. Master Xehanort says Key, the oldest letter. Some pronounce it Kai. And then they never really bring it up again. And then they say Keyblade, but it's with an X. So, for the sake of confusing everyone, I will use all 3.
Of course. All right. What about you, Wes? You got into any crazy stuff?
Soul Calibur just came out. And man, I don't know if you guys have been following social media a lot, but people are being so creative with these Soul Calibur 6 character creation. I've seen people are just creating memes in the form of custom characters. So you get Kylo Ren in the tall. What were those? The pants things from The Last Jedi?
Wait, the pants thing?
Never mind. Anyways, people are being really...
the pants that go up to, like, above his belly button. I know that.
Yeah. Someone created that.
I usually call them MC Hammer pants, but
parachute pants?
Yeah, parachute pants, or harm pants.
Those are a bit different, but so far, the medal for, like, the best is somebody created a Voldo that looks like a Magikarp. And he does this the flopping around,
of course,
on
God.
The ground, and it actually looks just like Magikarp.
So I think the Soul Calibur 6 has entered WWE territory where people are just more interested in their creative fighter. Creative wrestler, and just sharing it online. I didn't even know there's a game. I think it's just an elaborate 3D character creation engine with a fighting game on the side.
It's Black Desert Online, really. Uh, actually, that's what got me into wrestling games. Is I love character creation.
Oh no, it's
Um,
it's the best. Now, I gotta ask, for your character creator, are you just making stuff you like, or have you made yourself or an avatar of you?
I've done both. I did both. 'Cause-
Oh
so
God. Oh.
I'm a huge fan of The Witcher, and I had to have the Witcher set, but I play Astaroth, so I made something for Astaroth. It's just a big monster. So
You
oh,
did bring up the create. Did you ever create yourself in the game sort of thing? I
Oh.
have ever done that once in a wrestling game. Back when I was trophy hunting in PlayStation, there was Legends of WrestleMania, the video game for PlayStation 3. I decided to make myself, which is basically just I have glasses, a Hawaiian shirt, jean shorts, and sandals. But instead of being like 6'0", I made myself like 7'3", 500 pounds, just to be like, oh, you never knock me over. And it was great, just knocking over like Undertaker and Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. Be like, you can't knock me down. Just a little.
I just wish that we evolved to the point of wrestling games where we have voice lines and stuff, because then you could just hear, I don't know, like Vince McMahon go, and in order for you to win, you have to fight Daniel. Oh my, not Daniel. Oh.
Also, tomorrow is the 23rd, and it's the release of the Sabrina show on Netflix.
The Teenage
And-
Witch.
No, the Chilling, was it Chilling Stories?
Oh,
It's
the comic series, right?
It's right, the comic series and it's done. It's being directed by the guy who's doing Riverdale, and he does some really great cinematic shots. But I personally will be distracted because Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out tomorrow.
That's not the official name. It's Rootin' Tootin' Cowboy Shootin'.
Of course, I've been so
Back to
blind.
Kingdom Hearts, that sounds like Woody.
Nah,
I'm
but
excited about
you know, it's the Sabrina comic series is kind of like it was just part of this trend of hang tight. We're just making sure, double checking. I read a comment that stream might be down. Okay, looks like it's okay. But about Sabrina, there's this whole slew of, like, I don't know what genre it is, but like teen oriented shows going dark. Like you had the Scooby-Doo post-apocalypse show,
right.
Life After Archie, which is a zombie attack in the Archie world, and Sabrina, which is what you're talking about, where it's more like Buffy than Teenage Witch Problems.
Yeah. I'm just really excited about it. I read a few of the comics. It was a good time.
And, cool. I guess this is my time to share. I was very hard at work this weekend over at Pinball Expo in Banning,
Oh,
California.
Oh yeah.
You're
Yeah,
a big pinball guy.
I'm a huge pinball nut. In fact, I was when I was
a
at
wizard, one might say.
a wizard at work. When I was when I was pushing a cart, a door slammed on my finger, and then on my way out, that same door slammed on the same finger again. And my first reaction was, "Oh God, how can I play pinball?" You know, outside of is this broken or stuff.
Right.
So I went to my work's break room, which had a Guardians of the Galaxy pinball table, the standard edition, and I got I have the fourth highest score, so a finger not broken. But
That's good. I'm glad your finger's not broken.
yeah. Besides, I thought that's good, fourth place. Nah, but it was over at the arcade museum, the pinball museum, and it's just basically this big warehouse. It's not ventilated. There's like fans blowing everywhere, but it's just filled to the brim of crazy pinball tables, and some old stuff from the 1920s, some new stuff. There was a lot of pinball tables that I was looking for to play in person, like Bonsai Run. And I'm just going to describe how crazy this is. You know the back glass of a pinball table? That's where like the display is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Bonsai Run, if you hit a certain amount of targets, you go into the quote-unquote Bonsai Run, which is a race, and the back glass has a pinball table. Like, there's an elevator that takes the ball up, and then you play pinball from a complete 180 position.
A 90 degree?
No,
jeez.
Yeah, 180, because it's falling straight.
Huh.
Yeah. I played that. There was they had the Deadpool machine, so Jill and I got a lot of rounds in there. And okay, my favorite pinball table. All right, I'm gonna say this just because it's an IP that nobody would have thought they made pinball on. And not only did they make pinball of it, it was really good. And it was The Sopranos. There's a Sopranos.
There was a Sopranos pinball machine at my local theater growing up.
Yeah, in fact, the Sopranos pinball machine is the only pinball table I know that had a uncensored voice clip.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so I think it was when you get the ball save. So in pinball, whenever you drain within like an X amount of time while playing, you get the ball back. And in the Sopranos, if it was uncensored, it would say, "Give me the fucking money."
Whoa.
Yeah, so it's
for kids.
Yeah, for kids. Well, that was where if you had it for a personal collection, you could have the F-bomb. But if you wanted to put it in like a pizzeria or something, there was an all ages version.
You're right. I want to play a game where I put in a pizzeria. You found me out.
There is something funny about putting the Sopranos in a pizzeria.
Oh man. Okay. So G, you asked a question.
Yes, I did.
Oh yes.
That question, and you are free to answer this question too, chat, is who is the professional wrestler that best exemplifies the traits of what you love most in professional wrestling? And Wes was thinking about this, Daniel was thinking about this, and I got an answer, so let's share them.
Daniel, would you like to go first?
Okay. So first off, I got into WWE in 2000 and the very end of 2005. I had a little 7 or 8 inch box TV that picked up 8 channels. And then one day I was flipping through and I saw an episode of SmackDown. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I'm like, if my mom comes in, she'll be like, why are you watching such violence? I'm like, so I would always try to hide it or like turn it off whenever I heard somebody walk by the door. So I was never a part of the Attitude Era. I wasn't like get the F out era. I started at like WrestleMania 22 was like the first WrestleMania, which I started watching. And ever since then, I've been watching like ever since. So it's easy to say like, oh, it's The Rock because he has like amazing comebacks. But the one wrestler who got me in, the one wrestler who I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever, who I wanted to be, and partially I modeled my own character after.
Oh no, I know where this is going. Was
Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy. The man would just come out to the ring, shit talk the whole crowd, get on basically he was too big for a microphone. He basically reached to the heavens, and one of those old announcer mics came down because he summoned it, and he would just yell his name not once but twice to let you know who he was. And he was infused with like the Undertaker, and he was Mr. Money in the Bank. This was a guy that I'm like, oh my god. And this is like me just starting out, because I'd watched it for like only a few months at a time. So when he debuted, it was like, oh my gosh, this is like the coolest guy ever. Because I didn't know storylines had been like around for years and almost decades. So Mr. Kennedy came around. I'm just like, this is the coolest guy ever, because I basically entered just before he entered. So I basically got to go with him. And every week he came out, I'm just like, oh man, what's he gonna say this week? I was like, oh, I can't wait for him to do the Mr. Kennedy bit. And gosh, Mr. Kennedy, and eventually something happened to him, and he got sick, and then he did some bad politics. And then I was there. I went to the actual LA show, which was his last WWE show. It was the episode where the Denver Nuggets made the finals, and the WWE were supposed to go there, but instead they went to LA, who the Denver Nuggets were playing in the finals, and that was the last episode that Mr. Kennedy was there. So I felt like I got to live the entire life of Mr. Kennedy.
You know, I first off, let me just highlight some chat responses before I comment quick there. So the chat's been pretty alive. We have Lance Arene saying The Undertaker, a very solid choice. Rachel, Dean Ambrose. I'm going to gasp in surprise there. I only say that because for the listeners at home, Rachel has cosplayed Dean Ambrose as actually not really cosplayed Dean Ambrose, but has embodied Dean Ambrose's spirit in Heather Mason, and a little bit of John Moxley. We have Barbrisha saying Finn Balor and Elias. There are two people there, and Elias.
Hello, I am Elias, and I'm here to play this lovely melody, but also say crap about the home team and get booed for 8 minutes straight.
And
Yeah.
Mr.
That's
Maltrus
such an odd pick.
goes all of Chikara. But Daniel, I think what's really interesting about the appeal of Mr. Kennedy is, in my opinion, when in acting or when building a character, how a character says their own name reflects how they think about themselves. And you have to think of it like, outside of The Rock and maybe Stone Cold, wrestlers don't say their names. They usually say, like, I'll win, or I will kick your butt. But Mr. Kennedy would actually say he was known for saying his name, which is it's not as common as you think to say your own name in wrestling.
I had never thought about that, but that's definitely true. There are some other wrestlers that do say their name.
Well, The Rock, because he refers to himself in the third person.
Sure. Rusev.
Yeah, Rusev, but that's usually kind of done as I don't speak English very well, so I don't know pronouns.
Sure.
Yeah, Fandango, Tyler Breeze. I think none.
Well, those are all great examples.
All right.
Did you want to go next, G?
Yeah, I think I'll go next. I went last time. So, I couldn't... For me, I picked a more recent example. I mean, if I really dug deep, I could probably find something that is more of the best. But, for me, what I love in wrestling is... I love the pageantry, and I love larger-than-life characters. I kind of realized that. And which is why during the Attitude Era, not the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era, and a little bit of the Modern Era, I really was sad that we lost like gimmicks and ring names, and it was kind of like first name, last name kind of deal with everybody wearing like the tight black trunks. So
Yeah.
So for me, this wrestler, he makes me feel like a kid again when I watch him, and whenever I watch him wrestle, it's not about his, what the moves he can do, but it's really like a clash of a character, and how you're not fighting a guy who could, like, kick your butt. You're fighting, like, his ego, his personality, and everything. And for me, that's why my current pick is the Velveteen Dream.
I knew it was coming.
The Velveteen Dream makes me feel like a kid. Like every time he's out, I mark out. He can just do any gesture, and I instantly fall in love with it because like I feel like I get it. Like his character, I don't want to hang out with him, but I understand it's modus operandi. He does things that benefit him personally. I think my favorite line that Velveteen Dream said was, he was in this interview, and NXT is doing the whole who attacked Aleister Black storyline, and Velveteen Dream, fresh off his victory over Johnny Gargano, which was a huge upset. He's he's in his press conference and he's like he's talking about how he won, and then a reporter goes, "So Velveteen, who do you think attacked Aleister Black?" And Velveteen Dream said, "So wait, you have this golden opportunity to interview the Velveteen Dream, and you waste it by talking about people who are not the Dream." And I lost it. I just lost it. And to put it in another perspective, I really like the fact that, and Kevin brought it to my attention, is that the Velveteen Dream is a very flamboyant, ambiguously sexual character, but he's not played campy, and he's not played like comedic or cerebral. He's played as a big scary guy, and that's like really cool. That the fact that he's seen as very masculine, but he's very, and I'm trying to find the right word. He's presented as a very masculine, threatening guy, but he doesn't have the normal traits that we associate with masculinity, and I think that's awesome.
Can I just say he's like JoJo?
He's totally a JoJo character. He is totally
he's like a part 2 JoJo.
No, part 4. He's part 4.
Part 4?
Because he's Prince.
Yeah.
Okay, I could see him as a part 4 JoJo.
He has the pompadour, dude.
Well, I can't say he's exactly, but yeah.
Yeah.
Prince.
In the chat, it is written as Goldust was a very similar character. Yeah, Goldust is a very similar character. But I think what I like where Dream is, not to bash on Goldust, Goldust was very cerebral and he got in your head. Dream doesn't worry about getting in your head, he just worries about caving it in with his massive forearm.
Alright, I guess it's my turn to share.
Yes.
So, I can actually reach all the way back and tell you my first positive influence on wrestling. And it was when I was in like 2nd or 3rd grade.
Your first positive influence on wrestling. So it's you're influencing wrestling, right, Wes?
Sorry. By wrestling.
Oh, no. I would have been impressed if that was like, shoot.
The first time I changed the game, I was a wrestler. When I started wrestling when I was in 2nd grade. And it probably either that or the next year, I got exposed to wrestling. And it was through like a Game Gear game. It was, dating me way back in the 6 battery days. They had a bunch of Game Gear games that were wrestling, and they had like Hulk Hogan, who was cool. I think it was Shawn Michaels, who was cool. Ric Flair, but I wanted a character that was more like strength because I was a bigger kid, and I wanted to find someone that was a bit more like myself. And I found this guy who was dark and strong, could beat all the other guys, I thought. And it was Undertaker. And so whenever I think of anything like positive reflection on wrestling, it always goes back to Undertaker and that feeling that I felt when I was a kid towards wrestling. Because that's what wrestling is definitely for. Like when I heard it was set up, which is fine, but when Braun Strowman brought Nicholas out, that was kind of the magic that I loved as a kid, and I thought was really neat.
Undertaker is he's on a lot of lists for a reason, and I think it's just because it's the complete package. Like Hulk Hogan was, like you could see Hulk Hogan in reality, right?
Mm.
He's like he's a big, strong athlete, and he's very talented, and he's like but Undertaker just felt like something not of this world.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely set him up to just be this imposing character instead of a person. Like Hulk Hogan's just a bodybuilder from Venice Beach, but Yeah, the Undertaker.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan's a strong man, but Undertaker is a dead man. Like, oh wow, you gotta fight a zombie. Oh, that's scary.
He's not just a zombie, he's a wizard zombie. He can just like shoot lightning out of his fingers, disappear, make the lights go off.
I forgot he was basically a wizard. Yeah.
Currently in the chat, Rachel is talking about her expertise. Let me just see. There's a conversation about wrestling and gender studies and how portrayal of genders and different sexualities has definitely progressed in 2018 than before. Because as much as we love the Attitude Era, it wasn't very kind to the to women. So
No.
no, it wasn't. And that's not even an SJW thing. That's just fact. Women's wrestling is way better.
Yeah.
Way better.
I love women's wrestling right now.
I love
It's
wrestling.
fantastic.
Period. That's that. I don't even need to put genders. It's just wrestling. They wrestle good. I watch it.
And literally, like, just to end that point with a nice little cap at the end, Sunday is Evolution.
Mhm.
Is it this Sunday?
It's this Sunday.
Oh God. Yes. Oh God. Isn't yes? It's coming. Not oh God. Like ugh. If my tone wasn't
Okay.
yeah.
Shit, that's going to be a good show. Damn.
So
So that's what I got for that conversation.
that is. So Daniel, let's
Yeah.
talk about you for a little bit.
Okay, what's up?
Like okay,
we
so we got your wrestling. We got your wrestling influences, but how did you get involved in CWF?
Okay, so 2014, let's see, was Anime Los Angeles, and I'm in a room with like some friends and like friends of their friends, and we're just off doing our own thing. I'm just having like an okay con, and I look at the guidebook. I'm just like, okay, I see this World Cosplay Wrestling panel. I'm just like, I'll go to this thing. It's this. I don't know what this is. And I said, I'll try it out. And I'm in the hallway, and there's like kind of a line, but kind of like a mob. So I just kind of sit down, and I ended up, I guess, sitting down at the front. And I think I may have cut a bunch of people, but I'm just like striking a conversation, being like, and we're just like, just talking about wrestling in 2014. I think the Shield was like huge. It's like before Roman Reigns was like hated, but it's like the Shield was like big. So we walk in. I'm just like playing on my Game Boy. I think I'm playing Pokemon X at the time, just chilling out. And then the panel happens. The very first CWF show happens. I'm like, this is the coolest thing I have ever seen. And we see Afro Saiyan. We see Based Madoka and Homoreka. We see Jake the dog. We see Death the kid. We see the
not Death the kid. It was Death.
Right, Death. It's a guy with a hoodie that's been zipped up the front, and he has like a skull face, and he talks like this for about 30 seconds. And we see the girl from the basket, maybe a crossdresser. I'm told we see Otaku Hound, and we see Wes as Mr. Dangerous. And by the time this panel is over, I have the biggest grin on my face, and I head back to my room, and I tell everyone with a hoarse voice, I kid you not, I sound like, guys, I just sat at this panel. It was like, Fujita, and like, you never see a face Madoka's face. It's like, Jake the dog. It was like, oh my God, it was great. And there was Booker T. And it was like, I am the mountain. It was like, I had never been to that hype before, and I thought that it was a one and done panel. And then like a month and a half later, I'm like, months later, I'm like trying to see if anyone recorded that panel and find it. And all of a sudden I see, wait a minute, there was a thing at Fanime? Where's that? So I type in San Jose. Oh, that's really far, because I'm a SoCal guy, and that's like a 5.5 hour car trip. And then we have
5 hours
shows
if
up,
you
like,
speed.
5 hours if you speed, right? And I see, oh my gosh, that is the coolest thing ever, and I really want to be a part of it. And I'm like, I hope they go to Anime Expo. I hope they go to Anime Expo. I hope they go to Anime Expo. and then there's like, oh, we'll be at Anime Expo. I'm like, oh my god, I can do this. I really want to do this. I don't know who I'd be, but just really want to do this. And I told myself, there's only one thing that will prevent me from doing this, because I've been working with 13 other people on a masquerade skit that we've been working on for like 5 months that I was running everything. Like, I was like, okay, we're going to meet on this Saturday. We're going to paint this thing on this day. We ended up doing like, I think that was the year where it was Shonen Jump Showdown, where we had like the 4 heroes of the main 4 shonen, the 4 villains. We painted an entire 30-foot wide landscape of the Cell games just to be on stage for 2 minutes, because I'm all about presentation and showmanship, and Anime Expo has since gotten rid of that category. It's now all just the costume itself, which is fine, but I'm like, I go there just for this awesome to perform. And unfortunately, Anime Expo, the masquerade did coincide, and I'm not one to curse, but I did curse a big one that day.
That's always like one of the crappiest feelings of the convention, where you're like, oh my god, this thing's here, and then for like weeks you're like, I'm gonna do this thing and this thing, this thing and this thing, this thing, and then boom, they're the same thing. You're like, Urgh. It's like the organizer looked in your head and found the 2 things you wanted and just put them right there at the same time out of all the other times and in all the other rooms.
Literally everything could, like, when I see the time, just like, well, maybe if I ask them, hey, could we go last? I might be able to do the CWF now, because it's from 8 to 10, and the masquerade's like from 8 to like 11, and they end up being an hour late to start the thing.
Dude, it's the masquerade.
Yeah. It's the masquerade, and it was that was not a fun year. The previous year, I didn't do it pretty okay for like the past previous years. We won like a judges award for like Ash vs. E4, and my first ever real thing was Goku versus Sephiroth. It was like a death battle before death battle. It was like the most nerdiest thing ever. Like I didn't really watch anime growing up aside from Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, and that was it. And that was like when I was 10 and up. And I had just marathon Dragon Ball Z. My friend Adam, who's my best friend, he's in Florida, had the entire collection. So I'm like, okay, let me make the nerdiest thing ever, because I'm like, I played all the Final Fantasies, I played that. I'm like, who would win, Goku versus Sephiroth? And it is to this day, I'd say it's probably like my favorite Anime Expo moment by just a little bit. Maybe because it's like, oh, it's like early on, and it's like I always go back to that as like a great experience.
I actually saw that masquerade skit.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I was the Sephiroth.
I know.
Oh.
I think we've talked about it before, though.
Okay. Lance Arian posts about the subject of cons scheduling 2 events that you really want to see. They post, I hate that. More so when my panels are at the same time I want to see something. Thank God I can trust the person running the show for TaioCon.
If only all could be the same. And I've actually said for I've submitted the Kingdom Hearts a hilarious retrospective. I'm like, okay, cannot coincide with Cosplay Wrestling Federation.
I do appreciate when conventions do that. Anime Out Los Angeles was the first one I really noticed, where they say, hey, what panel conflicts do you or your staff have? And I think that's really amazing. So they make sure not to like screw over one panel.
That is really great. That is really great of them. The fact that they say, okay, it's not going to be the best time slot, but we'll give you one that works for everyone, which I think is great. Good on you for ALA.
Yeah, it really just goes to show that, I'm trying to find the right words, that cons... Okay, fan panels are not going to really push people to buy badges. Like, I get that, right? Like, no one's going to go, oh my god, the Hetalia panel, I have to buy a badge for that. Okay, maybe Hetalia is not the right one to use because it sounds like I'm bagging on it, but nobody goes, oh my god, Cosplay 101, $60, sign me up. No one says that in the course of ever. But I really feel like fan panels is what you do with your badge, because once you see a guest, like, that's it. What are you gonna do
Yeah.
for the rest of the day? You got to do something.
I totally agree. I mean, you can only afford so much content as a convention to throw out guests, but there are people that are super passionate and are making really interesting content at conventions, and I just wish people would check that out more. But that's a discussion for another day.
That's going to be a really good discussion.
Sure is.
Sure is, but that'll be for another day. But bringing it back to you, Daniel. All right, so you've been in CWF what, 4 years?
Yeah, 2015 ALA was the first year I entered as Yami Yugi. So yeah, this will be gosh, how many shows have I been to? I think like 14 different appearances, maybe 15 now.
Wow.
But yeah, so yeah, 4 years now.
So what keeps you around for so long? And that's a question.
Oh yeah,
so.
what keeps me around? Literally, it's conventions. But before CWF, I'm like, I go there just because my friends are going, and I'm just like, there's like one thing I want to do, and I just kind of like walk around in cosplay. I remember one year Anime Expo, I literally was in a Sephiroth outfit, and I just walked around the convention for about 4 or 5 hours, just wandering, and that was it for the day. Then I went back to my hotel room, like took a shower. Went back out there, just kind of walked around and didn't really do anything. And what really drew me to CWF and what keeps driving me back is the performance aspect of it. The fact that you get to do something in front of a crowd that you wouldn't be able to likely do normally. Like, it basically... How do I put this in ways that I can like express properly?
Here's the thing: don't think, just talk.
Don't think, just talk. Okay. Being a pro wrestler and just trash talking and hyping, I think, is one of the coolest things ever. The fact that you get dozens to hundreds of people cheering for you in a character that you brought to life is one of the most coolest and most gratifying feelings ever. When I was out as Skeletor and I had pretty much everyone pumping their fists in the air and chanting Skeletor, I'm just like, oh man, this is a great feeling. When I cashed in Yen and the Vol as Yami Yugi, I'm like, oh man, this like time stood still for that moment. I keep going back, like the moment with Efren, like. I just keep really living that moment in my mind. When I'm Jotaro and I'm just punching my fists in the air and I see hundreds of people punching their fists, I'm basically leading. I don't even want to call it a mob, but like, this crowd that just wants to be involved with something big, and I'm the one like responsible is fantastic and enjoyable, and I love it, and I want to keep coming back and performing because it's just the most cool feeling ever. And one of the things that I really enjoy is I'm actually quite similar to Yami Yugi. I'm like, oh, there's a prize if you do well enough. Like that, there's a belt. I'm like, I don't care what it is. I'm like, oh, you get to win something. You get to take it home. You get to like put it on a desk for couple months. I'm like, this is I earned this. I was so good that because of what I put out and people appreciated what I did is very rewarding. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow, I did this and it feels great. And the fact that you'll come back and defend it is fantastic. And I've been fortunate enough to win a few times, and I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very. Wow, I am stuttering a lot. I sound like a broken record. It's a very unique energy in the room. That's what I can determine.
Thank you, Dragon Blade. Oh, and yes, Ms. Guts and I literally debuted at the exact same time. ALA, I was number 1, and Miss Guts was number 2. And literally just our destiny even so intertwined. We go as a couple more characters down the line, and eventually we meet in the ring as Skeletor versus Pikachu Libre, and it's who knows? Maybe one day we'll meet down the road again.
So, Wes, you've done masquerade skits before, haven't you?
Only a couple.
Oh, okay.
And,
well,
and they were like very small things.
Well, you look. You guys have way more experience than me, because this is a question I got listening to this, and I think both of you could answer better than I can, and which is, what do you think the difference is of the emotional response you get at the CWF, with the chants and the callbacks versus the normally you usually get a big applause and you get cheers during a masquerade skit. Like,
Daniel, would you like to go first, or?
You can go for this one. I think I got a couple things I want to think about. Go for it.
Okay. I feel like the big difference is the response and how often it comes. So, masquerade is great. Yourself, you're an actor. Masquerade skits is acting on stage. But the big difference, and the thing I love about CWF, is that you can immediately tell how good or bad you are doing, because the audience and everyone that's involved in the show is telling you exactly how well you're doing. And if you do well and you're competitive, like Daniel says, or it sounded like Daniel was saying he likes a competitive nature, it's a really great feeling, because if you're doing well, it does feel really rewarding. It does feel like you are leading this huge group of people towards your goal. It's good. I like it a lot.
Because you got it too, Wes. I remember when we promoted you, and you got a big "You deserve it" chant.
Oh yeah, I had forgotten all about that.
But
yeah, this past AX when you were awarded the general manager position. Like that was the first chant of the night, I think.
Also, shout outs to It's Dragon Blade. Thank you for the 100 bits. That will go a very long way. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
What about you, Daniel?
So, whenever I did a masquerade skit, I've only ever done one walk-on, and that was the very first anime convention I ever did, which the picture exists, so it proves that I'm there, but I'm not too proud of that. I've done 3 masquerade performances, and every single time I was just going for the performance aspect over the costume, because I was completely set on entertaining the crowd and getting as many cheers and like swells of applause and like excitement as I could. So for like Goku vs. Sephiroth, it's like, oh, okay, Goku. It's like, oh, Sephiroth slashes him away, but he comes back as Super Saiyan. Like, the crowd goes crazy. Sephiroth shows up with a wing now. It's like, oh man, he goes crazy. Now it's Super Saiyan 3. Oh, it goes crazy. And then Goku goes to the front of the stage and yells everyone in the Nokia Theater to raise their hands to give him power. And immediately I see 4,000 hands in Nokia Theater shoot straight up. I'm like, I didn't plan for them to go that quickly, but I basically cut and pasted audio clips from the actual show, so it sounded like Sean Shamel versus George Newbern were fighting on stage. I felt like I did that, and I felt so good that I got that sort of response, that the audience loved it. And I'm like, I did that, which is what really draws me to CWF. And I would have loved to almost continue on that route had certain conventions, kept going for their performance aspect of it, but they've since gotten rid of all, at least Anime Expo, they've gotten rid of the performance, which is like that's the reason why I do it. I go out there to perform. I'm not a good seamstress, like, at all. But I just love to perform, and I love the audience response, which is really what drives me to CWF versus Masquerade.
I just wanted to clarify a comment Daniel said for those who are not too keen on anime conventions. The Masquerade is kind of like the big costume contest, and usually before they would have like a craftsmanship award and a performance award, and then the best in show. And what Daniel was commenting is how a lot of conventions are starting to axe the performance category.
That's a bummer, man.
Oh wait, I see Twitch has gotten unplugged. Is everybody here seeing this? I mean, hearing us properly? If everything's okay, push 1.
1.
Well, I mean, you can hear it because we're on Discord, but I gotta check.
Everyone says we're fine.
Okay, because like the screen went black. All right, cool. Everybody listening, excellent. So I listening to Daniel and Wes, I think I see where the through line is, and a lot of it ties into professional wrestling. And the big difference between professional wrestling and a crowd watching wrestling and a crowd watching the Masquerade is that we have, and this is going to sound like a bad thing, but it's a good thing, is that we've lost the barrier of civility. And whenever you watch a Masquerade, like how you watch a theater, you watch live theater or a movie, you feel like you got to be cued in on your response. Like, I can't laugh too loud until everyone else laughs, or I can't, I can react to something, but I can't say how I feel. But in wrestling, since it's like a sports show, like in a sports show, you're allowed to react to anything. You're like, you missed that shot, or you can't pass for crap. You could do that, and same thing in wrestling. You call that a punch? So without that barrier of civility, the crowd is not only able to react a lot more intensely, but they get to react in a way that they want to react, but also in a method that organically shapes the performance in front of them. You could cheer and say whatever you want in a Masquerade, but it's not going to affect the skit. But in wrestling, you could say something that can slightly alter what happens in the match. Like, there's this wonderful moment when, I forgot, it was Chris Jericho, and he was wrestling, and he was outside the ring, and a heckler says, I think it's like, go back to Ontario, or go back to Ontario. And Chris Jericho just yells back, I'm from Winnipeg, you idiot.
I've seen that clip, actually.
Yeah, and you can't get that in a movie or in a Masquerade because everything's fixed. And in wrestling, the outcome's determined, but how you get there is, it's up to the wrestler. Mr. Maltros states in the chat, it's the power of low theater, the deconstruction of the wall between performer and observation of performance. Wow, and I thought I was academic. Damn. Oh, wow. Yeah. That's
why
it.
We call him Mr. Maltos.
Mr. Maltos. Yeah, you beat me. You won. You got that, and I mean that as affectionately as possible. Oh, and it's Jack, the Turbo Theater nerd, who always is quick to correct me whenever I use the wrong Chekhov for talking about the Chekhov method of acting. Jack is our Dick Gumshoe, who played that wonderful moment in Fanime where he was assaulted by a pipe and got really close during Krakencon. Very knowledgeable in his analysis. Wait, shut my mouth. His ability to break things down on an academic level is absolutely stellar, and I'm jealous of it. Like, he knows how to make things sound scholarly. That is in fields that we don't normally attribute scholarly studies to. Yeah.
All right.
Here I am just speaking like from the heart and stuttering, but he makes it sound like academic.
Yeah. So Jack, good looking out for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Uh, so, Daniel,
Yes.
last time we were on the episode, last time we were on Backstage Pass, we talked a lot about Sac Anime, and we talked about Krakencon, but we didn't talk about Anime California, which I think you would be very knowledgeable in, as because unlike Wes and myself, you were there and we weren't.
Yeah.
All right. So, what would you like me to talk about? Just the whole experience as a whole, from like judging, or just the whole process took to get there, or
let's put a little background. So, Anime
Okay.
California was I want to say a reboot. Anime California 2018. Would you say that's the best way of putting it? A reboot?
that it was a reboot, as in it was Anime California in the name alone, with like none of the previous people that made the previous Anime California.
In fact, they even said when they were coming back that they would put for in easy access, like on the webpage, this is a new management team. It's brand new Anime California. Like they're doing their damn best to make sure this
CWF GX.
CW.
Yeah.
That this is new. I don't know what happened to the old Anime California, but it sounds like that things just did not go so hot on their last year.
There was a lot of things going on, unfortunately, with that convention, both internally and externally.
But Daniel, just briefly, can you? How was the con like, and how was it like running a show?
So the con itself was probably one of the smaller cons that I've been. Probably one of the smallest cons I've been to in terms of like group, like person density. It was relatively small in size, but it felt very friendly, like early anime LA sort of things, where you just like chat up with people and just like have a conversation for like 10 minutes with just a random person in a cosplay that you're from the same series from. In terms of running a show, I felt pretty darn good up until about an hour before the thing. Because an hour before, they said, oh, by the way, you wanted that wireless mic? We don't have a wireless mic. We only have wired. I'm like, do we have a stage? Oh, yeah, it's a stage, but there's like tables and chairs. I'm like, oh, God, what are we going to do? Is there a cord long enough to reach? We'll check once the panel's over. Oh, by the way, we're switching the rooms on you. So you're now in that room as opposed to the room right next to it. And I'm just thinking, oh, my God, all these things. Because I'm like, I feel like I've spent so much time working backstage to make sure everything goes well that the moment that it gets sprung on me before the panel, I'm thinking, I hope this doesn't affect numbers. I hope that people know which room is in. We have 4 contestants, 3 of which are brand new to CWF, and all 3 put out a really stellar first time performance. We had the big bad Blur who refused to use the mic, and basically he's just a comedian who is the fastest thing in the entire universe. We had pop singer Brittany, who's like the ultimate like diva heel, like almost like a Miz. We had Retzko, who was the very, very shy. I'm not sure if you can hear me anymore, but then brought out this amazing lucha libre style mask that was fantastic whenever Retzko would go to like berserker mode. And we also had John Wick, like one of our previous people, as a new person. And I felt like, okay, we want to do a small show. I just want to do like a small show. But one of the cool things is we were able to grab 2 of our biggest veterans ever, Jeremy and Alex, who are both previous champs, do like a really cool contract signing. And we basically went to them and said, okay, you guys, do whatever you want for 10 minutes because we only have 4 people. You can take like up to 20 minutes if you want, as long as you're not dragging us out, because we had an hour and a half to kill, and we finished with we had finished with like over 30 minutes to spare. And we even had Andrew Duralath show up. Like the night before this happened, he was just at the con, says, hey, you guys want me to do anything for CWF? I'm like, we are desperate for people right now. So we would love if you like give us like a blessing or something. So we're like, okay, as long as it's like you just want to like show up, do your entrance, have like an awesome like this is CWF sort of thing, basically like a passing of the baton, be like, okay, I'm giving you this blessing for this show. Running the show itself seemed pretty okay to me, actually. Like, I felt pretty comfortable running it as soon as, the panel started. And it was a ton of fun, and like I had never put on that costume before, and I was just hoping that it was going to look good.
It looked less like a wig and more like melted cheese on your head.
It looked like melted cheese on my head, and I had a mustache that, as the panel went further, the glue progressively got weaker and weaker to the point where every time someone would go and I was huffing and puffing like, oh my gosh, what was that? Half of it would be like flinging off and just like dangling from my upper lip. But I felt like, okay, this is a fun thing to add to the character. And
that's why you use spirit gum, man. Spirit gum, not glue.
I was able to coach two people before the thing that were basically like, I have anxiety. I like just like to to get a little nerves out of it, because for me, I'm always nervous just before the show. I'm never nervous like leading up to the show. It's always like, okay, I'm fine. And then like 3 hours before the show, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna puke. like even up to me entering as Skeletor for the first time, just like, oh man, I feel sick. I don't want to do this. I got to the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna tell G I'm sick. I can't do this. And that's the show that I won as Skeletor. Even I have performance anxiety, but at the end, it just the audience overwhelms my anxiety so that I just don't feel it anymore. Like the thrill, the adrenaline, the cheers, the boos, it is all worth it.
All right, thanks for that insight, Daniel. Daniel and Robert helped run Anime California. It was a great success, and the convention itself was a nice, chill event. So hopefully, we could come back. Now, I want to go ahead and take a quick moment, as those fans of the Steve Austin show would say, a little pause for the cause. And do some. I know that was a bad Steve Austin. I apologize, Mr. Stone Cold.
No, I love it. Could you do it again?
No.
Say something else.
Well, he would be like, all right, let me tell you something. This is going to be a little pause for the cause. And Steve Austin would always say, Diamond Dallas Page, Dollar Shave Club, get it right here. What?
I hope he hears that someday. It's like, oh my god. This is what my legacy has become.
Well, I mean, I got Steve Austin's shaved head, so I'm halfway there.
Well, I'm sure that he's gone on record saying that he regrets the "what" chant, because it's evolved to something that he didn't plan on, and it's still used to this day. So I'm sure he'd be like, "Hey, as long as you're not using the "what" chant, using the pause for the cause."
Pause for the cause.
What?
For everybody here who is looking to follow more stories and updates of the CWF and our new CWF podcast, Backstage Pass, you could follow us on Twitter, which is at the CWF Universe. Is it the? Gotta make sure. I'm gonna click thanks to Mootbot here. Yes. Follow us on Twitter at the CWF Universe. You could also find us on Facebook by searching Cosplay Wrestling Federation, and that same term you can use to find us on YouTube. And I also like to take some time to plug two separate organizations. The first one is Scarlet Rhapsody. That is scarlet-rhapsody.com. That's RHAPSODY. They are the promoters, they are the creators of Zero Hour, which is a traveling cosplay podcast, convention podcast, where they go along to, sharing their stories of every convention they've been to, which is Fanime, Anime Expo, Krakencon, and several others. And almost every episode the CWF is mentioned. They also have made Starch, which is a 100% kayfabe podcast hosted by Bacon Jake Roberts and Stevie Mundo, played by Stan, who designed our logo as well as played Joseph Joestar. They have been nothing but supportive toward us, and if you can, go to their website, search them on Facebook, give them a like, and follow them. The other page
And if they're listening, I just want to let you know that I have listened to every episode of Starched. You're doing great work. Looking forward to every one in the future. Just throwing that out there.
Throwing it out there. You should also listen to Zero Hour. Great stuff. It's Zero Hour is one of the very few long-form convention podcasts that exist on the internet, period. So if you want really good, in-depth breakdowns of a convention, give them a listen. The other place I want to plug is Curly Supreme. He's currently having a GoFundMe campaign to help him pay for a new tablet. His old one died. This is to help push his career as an artist and graphic designer further. Curly Supreme has done a lot of work for the Cosplay Wrestling Federation. He's made the Blackout Conquest logo, as well as the anime, the A Extreme Rules one, the new one with the big X. You could find his page on GoFundMe under Alonzo Mega, so that's ALAZOMEGA. And to make sure that I absolutely get the spelling right, I'm going to use the military alphabet, so that's Alpha Lima, Alpha Navarro, Zebra Oscar, Mary Echo, Golf Alpha.
What are you doing, man?
I used to work technical support over the phone. Look,
you could just type it out.
It was more fun. I wanted to test my military alphabet. Okay.
You were doing pretty good, but halfway through, I'm just like, he's gonna say Sierra Hotel Indio Echo Lima Delta Shield.
So if you can show Curly Supreme some love, throw a few dollars. It's gonna go a long way. And that's it. Thank you for listening to our Pause for the Coals.
All right.
All right. Now, big topics of the night. This is the segment of the podcast where we talk about what is going on in professional wrestling. And yes, Rachel has posted that I and Jack are call center buddies. It's a horrible, horrible position to be in. The people who are working them. My heart goes out to them. But back to wrestling. So, most breaking news is, if you haven't seen your Twitter updates, at the beginning of Raw, Roman Reigns just had to relinquish the WWE Universal title because because after being treated for leukemia 11 years ago, it is no longer in remission, and he has to take a leave of absence. This was that was heartbreaking. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say it was freaking heartbreaking. It was a very honest, heartfelt promo Roman Reigns cut. He said, "This ain't a retirement speech. I'm gonna be back, and once I'm done kicking cancer, kicking leukemia's ass." But it's just. You never want to see a wrestler drop a title due to circumstances beyond their control.
Oh yeah, it's really just the worst. Like, that's just getting to WWE is such a triumph of like hard work, and to be the champion, and then have to give it up to something that you beat 11 years ago. Oh man.
The promo just threw me completely for a loop, because I'm like, okay, here's Roman Reigns going to talk about the crown jewel thing, and I had literally just read on the dirt sheets like, oh, Roman Reigns misses house show, what could it be? And it's like, oh, he was running the ropes earlier today, he seems to be fine, so I'm thinking nothing of it. And then he starts his promo with, my name is actually Joe, and I'm speaking to you from the heart, and I'm fought leukemia 11 years ago, and unfortunately it's come back. I'm like, oh my. I literally yelled, what? Like, I had never heard any of this about Roman Reigns ever. Like, I didn't know that he was treated for it, didn't know that he had this in the past. And I'm like, oh my god, this is actually happening. and the audience was completely floored as well. Because you know, it's the Roman Reigns reaction. The music plays. There's like boos. There's like a few cheers, and then he says, "My name is Joe." There's boos. I fought leukemia. Dead silence. You can hear a pin drop, and for the next like minute and a half, him talking, it's complete silence from the crowd, and then nothing but like, you know, cheers and "Thank you, Roman" chants.
Rachel says,
And I was feeling exactly like Seth when he came out. Like Seth was crying, and Dean Ambrose had the look of almost looked like a kicked puppy, as I want to say, when he came out, just like for one last, you know, Shield bump.
yeah, Rachel wrote,
Gosh,
you
you
rarely
never want to see that.
rarely you hear the wrestling crowd go quiet, and you know, something was different because Roman Reigns wasn't wearing his Shield gear. He was rocking the turtleneck. He was just in regular clothes.
He looked like the Rock, because he wore like the jeans, the gold, the single gold chain, and like a black shirt. I'm like, he looks like the Rock right now, but it felt odd the way he was coming out.
And you know, first off, like, I'm not gonna say I speak for everybody, but you want to see, yeah, you want to see this guy, you know, Superman punch leukemia, right?
Oh yeah, like
Absolutely.
Right.
You and I have talked before about how I'm not particularly fond of Roman Reigns as a character, but like this is just the worst, and I wanted to come back because if I dislike someone, I mean that's part of the character. Man,
Yeah, you dislike Roman, but you don't dislike Joe.
yeah,
And it really, I mean, I just want to touch on this point. But I don't want to undersell the severity and tragedy of the situation. But it's they you wonder. I mean, obviously you wonder, you know, Roman's condition and how he's going to fight it. But you also wonder, where does WWE go? Because for months, or at least a month or weeks, they've been building up this this storyline with Dean Ambrose, and where it looks like he might betray the Shield or leave the Shield, and now you know they can't do that.
yeah.
And you know, this is not me going, oh no, their storyline, but it really shows like the unique nature that professional wrestling is as a medium of storytelling. Because like in if this was a TV show, right? You could, if this was a TV show, either the character they've already finished the season, or the character because was put on the shelf for a while, or they rewrite the ending. You know, they could put there is a solid plot plan of where a character goes. But in wrestling, as Triple H says, they always write the next chapter with the next page open.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only way you can do this. Somebody takes a fall when they shouldn't. It can't destroy an entire story.
Right, and you see how the story has to move on, and it's like do certain things just no longer happen, and it's just, I really find the writing of professional wrestling absolutely fascinating, because it's just as much as narrative storytelling as it is emergent storytelling.
We talked about this last week, actually.
Yeah.
About the big difference between the two. And wrestling is just a triumph of it's on the same. A lot of people like to joke, haha, it's like soap operas, but it is a lot like soap operas, as they're just putting it out constantly.
Yeah, these are storylines that are meant to go on for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and now that, like, I doubt that people didn't know about what was going on. Like Joe did not just spring this on them. I'm sure he was a professional and was like, hey guys, I am sick. I might have to leave the show. And they're now at that point where he actually does have to leave.
I mean, the last time this happened to someone who was at the top was Daniel Bryan.
Mm-hmm. When he, with his shoulder.
It was Daniel Bryan with the concussions,
With
and before
concussions.
that was Edge.
Was it Edge?
Edge
Well,
never.
Edge was like right after Wrestle. I think it was 27, like the night after 27, where he just beat Del Rio, like on either Raw or SmackDown. I think it was SmackDown. He basically defended the title at WrestleMania. Said, "My neck, unfortunately, is to that point where one wrong move and I could be paralyzed.
Oh,
So I have to retire."
oh,
But he's like, by leaving now, by winning at WrestleMania and defending a title, I mean, there's really no other way that I could go out that I would want. So Edge was like one of my favorite guys. Like when you said choose your favorite guy, like that's assigned, it was between Mr. Kennedy and Edge. Like those were the top two guys for me. Like really getting into it.
we had a. Sorry to interrupt. We had a correction in chat from Lance. I totally did forget about Finn Balor having to drop the title.
Right.
Oh God, it's Lance wrote cursed title.
It is a cursed title.
Oh man. Okay.
But to summarize, it's real tragic.
I think it can be universally said that people are not a fan of this.
Yeah, nobody's going woo,
Yeah.
and if you are, you're a jerk. You're a jerk.
I'm excited to see where they go with this, though, because the writers for WWE, they're not as good as they could be. So I'd really like to see like how they swing this situation.
Someone said it.
To keep it interesting.
Someone said it on Reddit, when Roman comes back, it's going to be the biggest face pop of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be like devil's advocate, but part of me thinks Vince just like now none of you will boo Roman Reigns. Because you just booed that man who just came back from fighting against leukemia. Are you gonna boo a man like that? We're like, well, no, but you're right. It'll probably be like one of the biggest, most triumphant comebacks. And I don't know how long this takes. I don't know leukemia. Is it like a month thing? Is it like 2 years? Is it 5 years? Is it indefinitely? But if he comes back at like the number 30 spot at the Royal Rumble, either this year, next year, following year, the roof is going to explode.
Oh God.
One way or another.
Lance just put it into perspective. Finn injured, Kevin Owens injured, Goldberg retired, Brock kept it away from other wrestlers to save them. Then it took Roman. Titles cursed. Titles cursed.
And now we have this crown jewel match, which is no longer a triple threat, but a singles match.
Hey, thank you. I was looking for a transition. Let's talk about WWE Crown Jewel. So, obviously, this is going on in wrestling, and we should talk about it, but I will be first to preface this in saying that none of us here are experts in this situation or are claiming to be experts. It is a very delicate, so rightfully so, issue, and if all we can give is how we feel. We're not going to advocate any specific course of action of what you should do and what you shouldn't do.
This is all opinion pieces.
This
and
is
does
all
not
opinion
represent
pieces.
CWF.
But-
So we're prefacing this with just know that this is how we personally feel. We're not politicians. We're not advocates for anything. This is just how we feel about the event. And with that said, I have an opinion about Crown Jewel.
Let's bring those who don't know up to speed. So,
Go for it.
To quickly summarize, WWE Crown Jewel is a series of pay-per-views that WWE does in Saudi Arabia that was funded by the current Prince of Saudi Arabia. CWF chat, if there's any incorrections, please let me know, and I'll gladly fix them. Or if there's anything I'm missing, let me know. A quick skim of the topic, though. The WWE is in, I think it's in like a 10-year deal for $55 million. The first Crown Jewel was met with a lot of rightfully so earned controversy. Mainly, the women were not allowed to go. and Sami Zayn wasn't allowed to be there on account of him being Syrian. I think my comments about the first Crown Jewel is best summarized by Dave Meltzer, where if WWE went in, got their paycheck, and went out, it would suck. But people would be like, okay, we got the bad taste out of our mouth. But what really twisted the knife was how Michael Cole and other announcers would just put on which was pretty much say propaganda, like how progressive Saudi Arabia is, or the wonderful Saudi Arabia culture. And you'd have John Cena and other wrestlers say, yeah, this is so amazing, it's great, oh, it's great to be here. And, it's not, wasn't, which is read as hypocritical, especially this was last year, part of when women were like, hey, WWE going, hey, we're more about women, and bam, Saudi Arabia.
And so this is a tough issue.
So that was part one. So now with part two, what's going on is that it's looking very likely that the Saudi Arabian government has been involved in the interrogation and murder of a journalist. And a whole lot of the world is rightfully angry, and this is hot at the heels of Crown Jewel, where WWE has pretty much only briefly mentioned Crown Jewel. They don't mention Saudi Arabia in its promotions. They've downgraded the stadium, and it really looks like they're going to do the show despite most of the roster not wanting to be there.
Just to update you, WWE still plans to hold Crown Jewel pay-per-view event in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, they are.
It's been confirmed.
Yes, they are still going to do it. It looks like they're just going to eat the bad PR and collect the paycheck. It doesn't help that they're in this long contract, so it's kind of one of those damn if you do, damn if you don't. This is not me saying, oh my god, think of WWE. I mean, they did bring themselves into the situation, but the Prince is very, very demanding with who he wants. It's probably one of the reasons why Michaels is back and Undertaker is still wrestling.
Yeah. So like,
and it looks like Cena and Bryan are also against it.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
But this, I think it's kind of naive to think that like this wasn't going to happen, because this was definitely happening. It's a ton of money. It's a lot of money in everybody's pockets, and WWE is still a business. You can't ever forget that the point of them continuing to do this, is money. So the idea that people think that they shouldn't do this show, which you said was $50 million.
Yeah, 50. I think it's $55 million.
$55 million. Yeah, they're going to do the show. The journalist, the Saudi journalist that was working for the Washington Post, I don't know what's going on with that.
He has been very critical of the Prince and the current Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, it's a losing battle. If you don't do it, you lose out on this huge deal that is not just being signed for now, was signed for last year or maybe the year before. But like if you do it, you're putting everyone in danger, and I'm not sure what the right play for that is. I mean, they decided to do it, but man, I don't know.
What about you, Daniel?
All right. So my opinion in this may be a little controversial, but I say it definitely is a damn if you do, damn if you don't sort of thing. I say they do it. I say WWE continues on in this instance. They are a business. This is definitely like there's a lot of money on the table. They're here to entertain the masses. They're here to entertain Saudi Arabia, which I'm not claiming to be an expert on the politics that happen in Saudi Arabia. I just know, like, the Saudi prince is basically like, oh, women can drive now, basically, as opposed to they couldn't, like, X number of years ago. And even though this seems like, why are you even talking with these people after this happened, I'm still for it will do more good than harm should they do this. Because if Vince... I saw this great video where the WWE 10-year contract is almost like, comparatively to the movie Lawrence of Arabia, in which case they send out one guy to this land, just do like this kind of boring mission, but eventually he came out like, wow, that was really progressive, like that was great. So Vince McMahon is like, I'm going to do this for the Saudi kingdom. Who knows what'll be like in 10 years? They call him like crazy now. In 10 years, could this be like, wow, this was like a thing that like kickstarted like, oh, a whole bunch of companies want to do things in Saudi Arabia and led to something progressive. If they pull out now, like 2/3 of the year through the first year, I don't see them ever going back or ever having deals with Saudi Arabia ever again after this.
Mm.
And yeah, that's definitely quite the stance.
It was a 10-year contract, you said?
Yeah, I think it's 10 years.
Okay.
It basically they signed a 10-year contract. The first show was the Greatest Royal Rumble, which happened in May of this year, which had a 50-man Royal Rumble match.
Wow.
And then this year they have what they call the World Cup, which is like basically a mini King of the Ring, and they have superstars like John Cena, Kurt Angle, Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, Dolph Ziggler, The Miz, and Rey Mysterio. They also have DX with Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement after 9 years to fight against The Undertaker and the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, Kane. As well as AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan, which is like a dream match. And then now we have Braun versus Brock instead of a triple threat with Braun, Brock, and Roman.
Okay, here we go.
This is a stacked card.
Oh, yeah.
And here, Black Freight posting, the event is part of a 10-year partnership in support of Vision 2030, Saudi Arabia's social and economic reform program. A statement said. So, looks like we're just getting some verifications from the chat about this. It's a huge card. My take on this is, like, Wes, I get where you're saying how it's pretty much somewhat naive to think that WWE won't do it, but I think people were a lot more hopeful that they would, quote unquote, do the right thing, ever since the Fabulous Moolah Rumble controversy for WrestleMania.
Well, I get that, but that's just a simple name change on their own. Like, oh, we changed that ourselves. Like, we made the name. We can change the name on a whim. And you're right. Like, I didn't even know the Fabulous Moolah controversy until after they made the thing. Like, I was like, oh, the Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young. They're like old wrestlers who were good back in the day. Because again, I started in 2005, so all I hear is the name and the face. I don't know of, oh, they did this during their life. Oh, that was and yeah. That seems like a simple fix. Where it's weird to say that WWE is in an international position of politics right now, but they are, whether they want to be or not.
Especially with Donald Trump in the Hall of Fame and Linda McMahon part of the cabinet.
Especially since Trump was on WWE.
Yeah.
Or was it F?
It was. I think it was.
At one point.
At one point. But
WrestleMania 23 was the shave a billionaire's head match, where basically it was Bobby versus Umaga, and then Stone Cold has given a stunner to the President of the United States. So there you go.
Oh man!
Like, for me, I'm gonna live. This is like I personally am a huge proponent of practicing what you preach, right? Um, where if you're gonna say you're for this, you better be for this, and this is where I get ruffled. I get wanting to get a paycheck, okay, and 55 million that could go a long way, to keeping the company, but it's just.
And it's even more money than that.
It's
dude.
more
There's
money, but
also
it just
merchandise.
it's so
There's
just for me. It's just so disingenuous for the WWE. Every freaking pay-per-view, every show, they show their charity work. During Black History Month, they have like Titus O'Neil talking about being in like the Martin Luther King Museum, and really pushing for social issues, and then they're here, and they're doing this. And what really puts it in a bind, right? I have a number of my friends on Facebook rightfully saying like, hey, this is probably going to be where I unsubscribe from the network, right? And you're completely allowed to pay your conscience. For me, I have a harder time doing that because one, I love NXT, and like, I want to give I wish it was like the Humble Bundle, where you could, when you pay them X amount and then it's like how much you want to the developers or to charity. I wish I could just give all my money to NXT because it's amazing. But on the flip side, people who are unsubscribing this month, this is also the same month as Evolution, and I'm worried that WWE would pull a Capcom with Remember Me. Remember that game?
yes.
No, I don't.
Remember
sorry.
Me, where it was like one of the first female led protagonist games, and it did horrible. But that was just because the game was bad, wasn't as good, and Capcom didn't market it properly, and that's where the game industry's going like, well, that shows that people don't really. I don't know why the game industry sounds like Skeletor.
No, he does not.
But game companies look at it as like, oh, look, see, people don't really want a female-led protagonist game because nobody bought it, and when in reality people didn't buy it because it was a bad game. And if you do the whole unsubscribe thing for this month, WWE would look at like, well, it's because they didn't really want Evolution, they don't really want an all-women's pay-per-view, and I think that Evolution is very important. Part of it is it's part of a problem that the WWE created itself, so they don't get a free pass from me on that. Like, they always could have been at the step to include women or intergender matches, but they don't. And feds like Lucha Underground have been doing intergender matches for a long time. PWG has been doing intergender, and it's great, and nobody really cares because it's wrestling, and wrestling's not real. But at the same time, if they're gonna fix something, I'd rather have them fix it. And Jill brought it into perspective where one of the reasons, she likes New Japan, but she'll always support WWE because WWE has men and women in the same federation. New Japan doesn't, and the common refutation is, oh, just watch X League, and it's not the same. Having men and women in the same fed and having a women's division does mean a lot. Yeah, Jack.
I will say this real like a side note about Evolution. This is completely devoid of I'm like completely like, oh, awesome, it's a women's pay-per-view. The card looks bad. Like, I'm actually upset that the first all women's pay-per-view is just a whole bunch of 1v1 matches with people who are like, okay, Becky Lynch versus Charlotte. Okay, that's gonna be good. Ronda versus Nikki. I'm like, well, I think they could have chosen somebody else better than Nikki for the big headliner. And then they throw everyone into a battle royale, including like Asuka, Naomi, Carmella, like all these people who were huge like a few months ago. Natalia and Sasha and Bailey versus the Riot Squad, which we've seen on TV for like the last 2 months in like every sort of possible combination. Trish and Lee, I'm like, okay, that seems kind of neat, but then we have 3, and well, we have 2 NXT matches and a Mae Young Classic Tournament final match, and I'm just completely underwhelmed. Like,
But that's
I don't want this to be an October to December pay-per-view in terms of quality, because I felt like this should have been like have some sort of like gimmick to one of these battles, not just like, oh, we're having an over the top rope challenge and that's it. Maybe like have a steel cage, have like a tables or a ladder match or something. Add it so be like, this is the big draw. It's like, oh, Ronda Rousey's here. Well, Ronda Rousey's the champion. She's gotta be here. I feel like I'm disappointed by the card. I'm not disappointed by the event. I am disappointed by the event. The fact that this is the first one and the card looks kind of meh. And the build-up is just. I'm gonna watch it and I'm gonna hope for the best, but I don't think it's gonna be that good. I'm really hoping that it's gonna be pretty good.
I think with the lack of gimmicks, I noticed that WWE is using gimmicks more for gimmick-oriented pay-per-views, like Hell in a Cell matches for Hell in a Cell and TLC matches for TLC. So that could be the logic. Like that's why the women's ladder match was on women's Money in the Bank was in Money in the Bank. It's like for Evolution for me, it's like it's gonna have Kairi Sane versus Shayna Baszler, and those two are phenomenal. And
they haven't even spoken about that once on either Raw or SmackDown in the entire lead up, unless it was at the end of tonight's Raw, which I watched up to like the last 45 minutes of. Unless they advertise it, that has never been announced. Neither has the Rhea Ripley versus TBD, nor the Io Shirai versus Toni Storm match. None of these have been advertised at all.
Right. See, that's where I'm freaking torn, because Kyrie versus Shayna Baszler has been building up so great on NXT. Not to mention the Mae Young Classic is one of their best tournaments. I put it over the second UK tournament. First one is still godly, but Mae Young Classic right now is so good. Like, Meiko Satomura steals my heart. And Mercedes Martinez was great, and Rhea Ripley is great, and Toni Storm, and it's just, I can't get that anywhere else. Like, I can't get that and it's like what they did with WrestleMania. It's like, I'm not really feeling this card. Oh, AJ versus Shinsuke, damn it. It's like when Capcom made Marvel vs. Capcom Marvel vs. Capcom again, but they put Phoenix right in it. You're like, you son of a bitch. Now I have to get it. Damn it. To highlight some comments in the chat right now, because there is a very charged conversation, not emotional, not heated, but emotionally charged. It's still very civil. Rachel has been airing her grievances. The bill to she believes that she is making the rightful, insightful comments that the bill to Evolution is very sexist, like how Ronda was sex shaming Nikki Bella, and let me just see, to quote
like
Rachel.
The only match that I'm looking forward to that I love the hype that's been going on behind is Becky versus Charlotte. That one, my God, it's been phenomenal. Like for the last 4 months, beginning with the triple threat with Carmella, when Becky just says, you know what, I've had too much with Charlotte just keep being inserted into the title picture just because her last name is Flair. I love how she's basically become a Stone Cold Steve Austin heel, in that she will act like a heel, but every single person in the audience will cheer for her. No matter what she does now, no matter how she acts, she is getting cheered louder than anyone. And Charlotte, who's the face, is getting booed. And they've been fighting like backstage segments. I think there was like an NXT, there was like a performance center where there was a found footage of them fighting this past weekend. All this buildup has been great for this one match, but Ronda versus Nikki, I'm like, that's it. It's like, oh, you slept with John Cena. Oh, you slept with Daniel Bryan. Oh, you've just been on Total Divas, and that's it. And
it's
Trish versus Lita.
It's
I understand it's old, but
it's frustrating. That's what it is. It's because because you see it done right on the same effing product, right? I mean,
yeah,
like Nikki Cross. Someone on Reddit put the current storyline on NXT is who attacked Aleister Black, and one of the main focal points is how Nikki Cross knows who did it. But Nikki Cross is so batshit crazy that she's not giving a straight answer. And someone on Reddit wrote that Nikki Cross is one of the very few examples is where a woman is part of a main federation storyline and has no inclination of any romantic subplots. One, because the bar's so low, but two, it's just Nikki Cross is written great, Bianca Belair's written great, Shayna Baszler's great, Candice LeRae's great, Dakota Kai's great, Kairi Sane's amazing, Mae Young Classic is great, but then you go to the main roster and
Triple H is like, Vince, I see the reins, you're holding on. Could I have a go? Please? It's weird. It's weird to say that CM Punk was right all along.
And here's the worst part. Rachel just said it. The best portrayed woman on the main roster is Stephanie McMahon. Not Ronda. Stephanie. Stephanie, who's the heel, who slaps people in the face and goes, "Oh, I'm gonna announce the women's Royal." I'm gonna nip this conversation in the bud before we go another hour.
Okay. So that was our opinions on Evolution and Crown Jewel.
No. First off, I need to clarify. Rachel didn't write that Stephanie McMahon was the best portrayed, but Rachel McMahon. But wow, why did I say Rachel? Rachel said that Stephanie McMahon is portrayed in a certain way where she acts like she's invented women's wrestling, which spurred my memory. So, not to put words in Rachel's mouth, but oh god, it's just god. Because when women's wrestling is good, everybody wins.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody wins. Hey, maybe people are a little tired of watching The Shield and stuff. Let's focus the next episode on the women's division. It's great. It's a great way to switch things up. This topic just makes me think in the worst way possible. Oh God, I apologize. I'm not normally like this, everyone.
Yeah, man. I'm just excited. I'm just excited. Like, I don't want to look too deep into the cards because maybe there's going to be something that throws a curveball my way, and I really enjoy it.
Kairi Sane's enter elbow drop.
There we go. So
I think on that note, I think we've reached the end of today's episode of Backstage Pass, and I have already the next question to be answered for the episode.
there we go.
All right, everyone listen in. What is this next question?
The next question for Backstage Pass episode 2 is: if you could learn how, given your own physical abilities, your current ones, right? No hyperbolic timetable stuff. If you could learn any finisher, what would it be and why? And what would you? And if you did do the finisher, what would you call it?
Oh man!
All right, that's the question we're going to stew on.
Everyone in here has answered that question in their mind.
Yeah, the reason why I say keeping your own physical abilities in mind, like, me, I wouldn't say red arrow, because there is no chance in hell I could do a red arrow.
No, we're thinking Starship Pain. I still don't know how he pulls that off.
Right. I can't do Starship Pain. I can never do red arrow, but there are some moves that I could feasibly do, right? So
I already know my answer.
No,
It's my
that-
favorite move
that-
of all time.
that's the handcuffs. That's the handicap you got to give yourself. You have to think of your current physical ability. I mean, a little extra leeway considering you'd be going through training, but a little bit of training. But if you could do any move, what would it be? Why? And what would you call it? So,
God, that's gonna be a much harder question. I'm glad I'm not guest next week.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for having me on. It was a blast talking with you.
Oh no, this was absolutely this was great.
Pleasure.
And thank you, CWF Chat, for keeping us on the straight and narrow and keeping us course corrected. But I guess this is the time we sign off. So once again, follow us on social media: Facebook, CWF Cosplay Wrestling Federation, Twitter, at the CWF Universe, and on Twitch, which you are listening right now, is the CWF Network. Share us, follow us, give us a like, subscribe, and we will be here for the next episode, which would be the first Monday of October.
November.
Damn it! I was doing so well.
Is the first Monday of October is the day after HentaiCon?
First
Sure
November.
is.
Yeah, first. You said October too. The first.
I did.
Yes, the first Monday of November, which we will be back, Wes and I and another guest. And it's
Alright.
also Shai's birthday, so thank you for listening. Hope you liked our backstage pass, and we're gonna see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Take care, CWF
See ya.
Universe.
See you.